Sometimes, reality is just stranger than fiction.
Yeah,
And Allison's story, it's one of those times.
absolutely.
We're diving into this case that really gripped South Africa, the Noordhoek Ripper Rapists.
Yeah, a tough one.
It's about this woman who survived, an unimaginable attack,
Yeah.
abducted,
Yeah.
raped, stabbed over 30 times,
Oh, and
left
then
for dead.
wow.
And yet she not only lived, but became like this incredible advocate for other survivors.
Really a powerful story.
So we've got court documents, police reports, and even excerpts from Allison's own book, I Have Life,
Okay.
just to help us understand what happened.
It's a story that goes beyond just the headlines, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it's not just about, the brutality of the crime,
Right.
but like the context.
Yeah.
South Africa in the 1990s, a nation grappling with its past and a culture of violence.
Okay, so let's set the scene.
Right.
Picture the South African coast, beautiful beaches, but also this isolated area called Noordhoek. It was kind of the perfect backdrop for these horrors that unfolded there.
And it's crucial to remember the social climate at the time.
Yeah.
The country was transitioning out of apartheid, but racial tensions were still like raw, and violence was sadly a part of everyday life.
Yeah.
It wasn't just some random act of violence. This was a crime really intertwined with the complexities of that era.
And then you have these two perpetrators,
Right.
Frans de Toy and Tans Kruger.
Okay.
Both had troubled pasts, military service, and this shared fascination with what they called Satanism.
This idea of Satanism was part of a wider phenomenon back then, like the Satanic Panic.
Yeah.
People were really afraid of cults, ritual abuse, and this fear definitely played a role in how the public perceived this whole case.
Right.
Detoy even claimed demonic possession during the trial,
Really?
trying to shift the blame onto some external force.
It's wild how he tried to deflect responsibility. Now, Kruger was younger, maybe more susceptible to Detoy's influence. They were vandalizing cemeteries, stealing from graves, really buying into that dark imagery.
Yeah.
But their crimes quickly escalated from petty theft to a string of increasingly violent rapes.
And that escalation is what makes this case so disturbing.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about fulfilling some, twisted ideology.
Right.
It was about power and control.
Oh, I see.
One of their early victims, Rachel, she described being abducted at gunpoint,
Oh.
driven to Noordhoek, and assaulted for hours.
It's terrible.
And after all of that, Detoy, he tried to act like her boyfriend.
What?
Even bought her a sandwich and a rose.
It's chilling.
Right. How he tried to normalize the abuse, to manipulate her perception of what had just happened.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
classic tactic of abusers trying to make the victim question their own reality.
Right.
But with Allison, their cruelty, it reached a whole new level.
December 17th, 1994.
Okay.
Allison is arriving home, and Detoy, using the fake name Clinton, forces his way into her car with a knife. He drives her to Noordhoek, picks up Kruger, and then the nightmare begins.
This is where we really see a shift, from horrific to truly disturbing.
Right.
The level of violence that they inflicted on Allison, it went so far beyond their previous attacks.
Yeah.
It's like they were no longer satisfied with simply overpowering their victims.
Yeah.
They wanted to completely dehumanize them.
But what's incredible is how Allison coped.
Okay.
In these terrifying moments, she just kept telling herself, he's doing this to your body, but not to you.
Wow.
Like, he can't touch you.
That's remarkable, isn't it?
Yeah.
In the face of such unimaginable trauma, she found a way to protect her sense of self.
Right.
It speaks volumes about her mental strength, her will to survive.
Right, yeah.
This internal separation, it's maybe what allowed her to endure what came next.
Because they didn't just assault her.
Right.
They stabbed her repeatedly.
Oh my gosh.
Slashed her throat 17 times.
Oh, that's awful.
The police reports are graphic. Her head was nearly severed.
They left her for dead in that isolated clearing.
And what's truly disturbing is the casualness of their cruelty.
Yeah.
The police reports mention how they rummaged through her belongings, tossed them onto her body,
Right.
and then simply drove off in her car.
There's a chilling lack of empathy there.
Yeah.
A detachment from the consequences of their actions.
But here's the thing. Allison didn't die.
She didn't.
She regained consciousness.
Wow.
And think about this. She wrote their names in the sand.
Really?
Imagine the presence of mind that took.
I can't even imagine.
And then, with horrific injuries, she crawled to the road.
This is where her story goes from horrifying to almost unbelievable.
Right.
The sheer will to live, the physical endurance, it's awe-inspiring.
Yeah.
Remember, she wasn't just crawling.
Right.
She was trying to stay quiet, afraid that they might come back and finish what they started.
It's heartbreaking to read about her ordeal.
Yeah.
A car actually stopped, saw her, and drove away.
Are you serious?
Can you imagine that feeling of despair?
That's terrible.
And then, finally, Tienard and his friends came along.
Okay.
He was a vet student at the time.
Oh, wow.
And he used his skills to try and stop the bleeding, keep her conscious while they waited for help.
How long did it take?
It took 2 hours for the ambulance to arrive.
2 hours.
2 hours!
Wow.
It's almost unimaginable.
Yeah.
But what's even more amazing is that despite the trauma, the pain, she was lucid enough to give details.
Really?
To identify her attackers.
That's a testament to her inner strength, her determination not to let them win.
She picked them out of a police lineup without hesitation.
Oh, wow.
The public outrage was palpable, and Allison, even while recovering from multiple surgeries, decided to speak out.
Good for her.
To empower other survivors.
That's a pivotal moment in her story, isn't it?
Yeah.
She could have retreated,
Right.
understandably so, but she chose to turn her trauma into a platform to break the silence surrounding sexual violence. It was an act of incredible courage, and it really had a ripple effect throughout South Africa.
The trial was a media frenzy.
Okay.
Detoy, sticking to his story, claimed demonic possession again.
Wow.
Trying to play the victim.
He just wouldn't give up on that.
Kruger was more subdued, and a psychologist diagnosed him with borderline personality disorder.
Interesting.
But in the end, they were both convicted and sentenced to life in prison.
Justice, right?
Well, it's not that simple.
Oh.
Remember, this is South Africa in the 90s.
Right.
The justice system was, and still is, imperfect.
Okay.
There are broader questions about sentencing, rehabilitation, and the cycle of violence that need to be addressed.
Yeah, I agree.
But for Allison, it was a step towards healing, towards reclaiming her life.
I can see that.
And her story doesn't end there.
It doesn't.
She had a long and difficult road to recovery, physically and emotionally.
Yeah, of course.
She faced PTSD, depression, the constant fear of being attacked again.
That's so sad.
But she found solace in public speaking, becoming a motivational speaker.
Wonderful.
And even wrote a book about her experience.
This is where we see the full arc of her resilience.
Yeah.
She took the shattered pieces of her life and rebuilt them.
It's amazing.
Not just for herself, but to inspire others.
Right.
She transformed her pain into purpose.
Yeah.
Which is an incredibly powerful message.
But just as she was starting to heal, there's a twist.
What happened?
Years later, Detoy and Kruger become eligible for parole.
Oh, no.
And get this, Allison found out through the media.
Are you serious?
Can you believe that?
It's a stark reminder that even when the legal system delivers a verdict, the emotional and psychological impact of these crimes can continue to haunt the victims.
It's like a punch in the gut.
Yeah.
You survive this ordeal, rebuild your life, and then bam, the system you thought would protect you fails you.
It's terrible.
And this is where the story takes a truly bizarre turn.
Okay, what happened?
Allison starts receiving these emails from a woman in America.
From America.
The woman's name is Joyce, and her daughter Sabrina was engaged to get this France Detoy online. They met on Facebook.
Engaged. This guy is in prison for life for multiple rapes and attempted murder, and he is snagging online fiancés.
It's a stark reminder of the manipulative power these individuals can still wield even from behind bars.
Yeah, that's scary.
Detoy, in his messages to Sabrina, downplayed his crimes.
Oh, wow.
Painted himself as a victim.
Really?
And preyed on her sympathy.
Classic abuser tactic.
And remember, this is before social media was really policed like it is now.
Right.
So he's on Facebook boasting about his past crimes.
No way.
Making threats.
Oh, God.
Even asking for money.
That's unbelievable.
The mom finds all this, contacts the authorities, and nothing.
It raises some serious questions about accountability in the digital age, doesn't it?
Yeah.
How do we monitor and control the online activities of individuals who have proven to be dangerous?
Right?
Especially when they're seeking to manipulate and exploit others.
It's terrifying.
It is.
Allison finally went to the media.
Okay.
Hoping to expose Detoy's online behavior and get him off social media.
Yeah.
It eventually worked.
Good.
But the fact that it took public pressure is mind-blowing.
This is where Allison's courage to speak out years earlier comes full circle.
Yeah.
It's a testament to the long-term impact of her advocacy.
Right.
Because of her willingness to share her story, she was able to shed light on this new danger and potentially protect others from falling victim to Detoy's manipulation.
It's almost hard to grasp, isn't it?
Yeah.
This woman endures this horrific attack, fights her way back to life, and then has to keep fighting years later to keep this monster behind bars.
It makes you wonder, how much can one person take?
I know.
It's incredible.
It really speaks to the power of her voice.
Absolutely.
And the fact that she was able to use it to expose Detoy's online activities and potentially protect other vulnerable people from falling into his trap. It's incredible.
It shows that her decision to speak out wasn't just about her own healing. It was about creating a safer space for others.
Yeah.
But the story gets even more unsettling. Around this time, a documentary filmmaker, Uga Carlini, was working on a film about Allison's story.
Okay.
And Detoy actually contacted her.
Really?
He wanted to be interviewed for the documentary.
You've got to be kidding.
It's almost beyond belief, isn't it?
He wanted to be part of the film. I can't even imagine the audacity.
And his demands were outrageous.
What were they?
He wanted Allison to write him a letter of forgiveness.
What?
And to receive a cut of the earnings from her book and speaking engagements.
It's like he felt entitled to profit from the trauma he inflicted.
It's truly disturbing.
It makes me sick to my stomach just thinking about it.
But thankfully, Carlini refused his demands.
Ew.
The documentary Allison came out in 2016.
Okay.
And it's a powerful testament to her resilience.
But it also highlights the ongoing struggles of survivors.
Right.
Detoy and Kruger may be behind bars, but the psychological scars they left run deep. Allison still has to fight for her voice, for her safety, even years later.
It makes you think about the true meaning of justice.
Yeah.
Is a life sentence enough?
Right.
Does it address the profound and lasting impact on the victims?
That's a tough question.
It is.
I mean, what does justice even look like in a case like this?
It's something society continues to grapple with.
Yeah.
And then there's the question of rehabilitation.
Right.
Is it even possible for people who have committed such horrific acts?
I honestly don't know.
It's a tough one.
But in the midst of all this darkness, there are also glimmers of hope.
I agree.
Allison's incredible survival, her courage in speaking out, the support she received from friends, family, and even strangers.
It shows that even in the face of such evil, humanity can shine through.
Exactly.
And one of the most powerful examples of that is the story of Tian Ard,
Oh, yeah.
the vet student who helped her on that awful night.
Right.
He was so affected by the experience that he ended up becoming a doctor. And years later, he helped deliver Allison's second child.
Talk about a full circle moment.
It's a beautiful illustration of the interconnectedness of life, isn't it?
It gives me chills just thinking about it.
It is pretty amazing.
And for Allison, becoming a mother after all she'd been through, that was a profound victory.
It really highlights the power of the human spirit to heal, to create life, even after experiencing such profound darkness.
But there's one detail from her book that really stuck with me.
Right.
For years, Allison kept this box of evidence from the crime scene, her clothes, her belongings tucked away, untouched.
It's a tangible reminder of the trauma,
Yeah.
something many survivors struggle with.
Right.
How do you move forward while carrying that weight? What does healing actually look like?
For Allison, it involved going back to that place in Noordhoek
Okay.
with her husband and the author she was working with and burning everything.
It was a symbolic act,
Yeah.
a way of releasing the past, of reclaiming her power.
Right.
It's a powerful image, isn't it? Fire as a source of both destruction and purification.
It makes you think about how healing isn't about forgetting.
Right.
It's about transforming the pain into something else, something that doesn't control you anymore.
Exactly.
But Detoy and Kruger, are they still eligible for parole?
They are.
So Allison has to keep fighting,
Yeah.
keep making her voice heard to ensure they stay where they belong.
It's a David and Goliath situation, but Allison is not backing down.
Right.
And her story isn't just about one woman's survival.
I agree.
It's a call to action for all of us.
What do you mean by that?
It's a call to confront the reality of violence against women,
Yeah.
to demand justice and accountability, and to support survivors in their journeys of healing.
Right.
And perhaps most importantly, to recognize the incredible strength and resilience of the human spirit.
Her story is definitely a testament to that.
It is.
It's hard to believe everything she went through and how she came out on the other side.
I know, it's inspiring.
It truly is.
And it makes you wonder what we can learn from her experience.
Right.
What can we do to create a world where stories like Allison's are no longer the norm?
Yeah.
What can we do to support survivors and prevent these kinds of atrocities from happening in the first place?
That's a big question.
It is.
But I think it starts with awareness.
Yeah.
We need to acknowledge the prevalence of violence against women, the systemic issues that contribute to it, and the long-lasting impact it has on survivors.
And we need to challenge the societal norms that perpetuate this violence.
Right.
The victim blaming.
Yeah.
The silence, the lack of accountability.
It's about changing the narrative, isn't it?
Absolutely.
About shifting the focus from the victims to the perpetrators and holding them accountable for their actions.
Exactly.
It's about creating a culture of respect, consent, and equality.
I think so too.
And I think it's also about recognizing the power of storytelling.
Right.
Allison's willingness to share her experience, even the most painful parts, has had a profound impact.
I can see that.
It's given a voice to other survivors. It's sparked conversations. Yeah.
And it's inspired action.
It's a reminder that sharing our stories, even the difficult ones, can be a powerful tool for change.
Absolutely.
It can be a way of connecting with others, of breaking down stigma, and of creating a sense of community.
Right.
And sometimes it can even save lives.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's a good place to pause for a moment.
Okay.
This has been a heavy conversation.
It has.
And I want to give you, the listener, some time to process everything we've discussed.
Yes, take a moment to reflect.
What resonated with you the most?
What questions are swirling in your mind?
We'll be back in a moment to continue our deep dive into Allison's story.
Yeah, it's a lot to think about.
It is.
The brutality of the crime, the resilience of the survivor, this ongoing struggle for justice.
And the complexities of the justice system itself.
Right.
We often think of a life sentence as like the ultimate punishment,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't always bring closure.
Right. Especially in cases like this,
Yeah.
where the perpetrator continues to pose a threat.
Right. Even from behind bars.
And then there's the emotional and psychological toll on the survivors.
Absolutely.
Something that often gets overlooked.
The trauma can last for years, even decades.
Right.
Allison's story is a reminder that healing is a journey,
It is.
not a destination.
It makes you think about how we as a society can better support survivors of violence.
It starts with believing them, listening to their stories without judgment, and providing access to the resources they need to heal.
And it also means holding perpetrators accountable.
Yes.
Not just through the legal system,
Right.
but through social and cultural change.
Exactly. We need to challenge the norms that allow violence against women to persist.
Right.
We need to create a world where survivors feel safe to come forward.
Yeah.
And when they're met with compassion and support.
And I think Allison's story is a testament to the power of that kind of support.
It is.
Despite everything she went through, she found the strength to speak out.
To fight for justice and to inspire others.
Her story is a beacon of hope.
Yeah, it is.
A reminder that even in the darkest of times, the human spirit can prevail.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a question to ponder.
Okay, I like it.
What can you do in your own life to challenge violence against women and support survivors?
It could be something as simple as speaking up when you hear a sexist joke.
Right.
Or donating to an organization that helps survivors of violence.
Or it could be something bigger, like volunteering your time or advocating for policy changes.
Every action, no matter how small, can make a difference.
Absolutely.
And if this deep dive has brought up any difficult emotions for you, please reach out for help.
Right?
There are resources available, people who understand and want to support you.
Definitely.
You are not alone.
And remember, Allison's story is a testament to the power of resilience.
Absolutely.
Even in the face of unimaginable trauma, healing is possible.
It is.
There is always hope.
And you know, it's really important to remember that Allison's story isn't just a South African story.
Right.
It's a global one.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Sadly, violence against women. It's a pandemic that knows no borders.
It's a problem everywhere.
And her courage in speaking out, her resilience, it's a powerful reminder that we need to do more.
I agree.
To protect women and girls.
Absolutely.
To challenge the systems and structures that perpetuate this violence.
Yeah.
And to create a world where everyone can live free from fear.
That's the goal.
It is.
And I think that's a powerful message to end on.
I agree.
So thank you for joining us for this deep dive into Allison's story.
It's been a privilege to share it with you.
And we hope it's inspired you to take action in your own lives.
To create a world where stories like Allison's are no longer the norm.
And to stand up for justice and equality for all.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening.